We are very honored to have Eric Trump joining us right now. Let's see, Eric, are you here?
I'm here, guys. How are you?
All right, there he is. Eric, how are you, sir? Good to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, by the way, I love the MAGA hat. I love that. Thank you. You guys are making my morning. Most of the time I go into the wolf den with people who absolutely detest us, on TV.
No.
And I was famous for that. Obviously not you guys, but I love seeing the camaraderie early in the morning.
Absolutely. The chat is literally already breaking the system for you. Dear America here, we love you. We love your family. I appreciate you taking the time to come out and hang out with me a little bit here. But first of all, let's go ahead and get the thing out of the way. You got a new book coming out October 14th, I believe, but it's on pre-order right now, called Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. Tell us a little bit about it. And then I kind of think that it's very fitting for what we are dealing with right now. We were just about ready to talk about we are under siege in this country, but tell us a little bit about the book.
So it went to #1 on Amazon. Go get yours now. Send it to your liberal friend who literally is complaining that Comey is being politically targeted. If you want to see political targeting, read this book. But listen, they tried to destroy our family. You guys know this better than anybody. You covered it better than anybody. I think you guys are one of the best conservative voices out there. But they impeached my father the first time. They impeached my father the second time. They made up the Russian, dossier, the dirty dossier. They made up the Russian hoax. I was in the middle of that, where the FBI calls me up and says, hey, I hear you have secret servers connected to the Kremlin in the basement of Trump Tower. Give me a break. They raided our homes. They tried to bankrupt us. They deplatformed us. They debanked us. They took us off of Twitter and Facebook and X. They took my father off the ballot in Colorado and in Maine. Every DA, 91 indictments, they came after us. They tried to destroy our lives. They tried to throw us in jail. They went after his Supreme Court justices. I mean, they tried to break up our family. They raided Melania's closet. They raided Barron's room. And then they tried to kill my father, not once, but twice. And, I've been thinking about that name for a long time because I became the most subpoenaed man in American history based on the fact that they couldn't get to my father in the White House. So guess who they started subpoenaing? Every single day I was getting a subpoena from these lunatics. They put our family under siege. They put our movement under siege. They put that hat right there, the MAGA, the MAGA hat. They put our movement under siege, and then they killed our friend Charlie. This book came out 3 days before Charlie's assassination. And, I don't think there's ever been a more time that's more pertinent. And guys, the good news is because of voices like yours, and because we were totally outspoken, and because you had heroes that stood on that stage every single day at great personal sacrifice, we won. We beat the corrupt media. We beat the corrupt system. We beat the corrupt DOJ. We beat the corrupt FBI. We beat all of them. And honestly, my father's doing transformational things for this country right now.
Yeah, Eric, I don't think anyone can even fathom what your family has gone through for this country. So I do have a question, some insider baseball, if you will. When President Trump, your dad, decided that he was going to run again, all right, 2020 election was stolen from him. We now know this. We knew it to be fact before, but now that we're back in the White House, we now know that this to be fact, that President Trump's won an election 3 times. But when it was done and it was all there, I was at Mar-a-Lago when he announced that he was running. We were there all day behind the president. What was the conversations like between you and your family? Because you had to know that the second that he announced again, they were going to come after you guys even more. And we all saw it, the indictments, the mug shots, I think he faced 700 years in prison and things like this. What was that conversation like? Was it a long conversation? Was it a brief one? Did he even talk to you about it? What was that like for your family?
I can't tell you how devastating 2020 was because this was a sham. No one believes that, Biden got 16 million more votes than, I spent a lot of time in the book talking about it, but he got 16 more votes than, Barack Obama, who actually had charisma and like him or not, he had charisma. He had a good following.
And a pulse. He had a pulse.
And the guy didn't leave his basement. Give me a freaking break, right? No one believes it. Everybody knows exactly what happened. And by the way, even the other side knows what happens deep in their soul. But honestly, it's like I believe in the law of unintended consequences. It was the greatest thing that ever happened. Now we have the House. Now we have the Senate. We have a kick-ass cabinet, right? We've got 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. The media is effectively extinct and non-functioning because independent voices like yours have made them extinct, right? And they've lost all their credibility. But I remember that, and I'm sitting there saying, like, I'm probably the least benefactor to this entire thing because, again, as a guy running the company, if they try and get to my father, they try and go through me, right? They want to erase his legacy. That's why I got 112 subpoenas. There's no one in history of this country who's got 112 subpoenas. And these are from the Senate. These are from Congress. At the same time, I'm sitting there, gritting my teeth. Let's go get these guys. Let's go get these. You know what? I can't say it. I won't say it. I'll be a little bit politically correct. But and I said to my father at one point, I'll never forget. I was with him every single day. I would not leave his side, either on the stage or in the trials. And they read off those 34 felony counts in that sham trial in New York. And he turned around. He shook my hand. We walked out together. And he goes, "Honey, I don't know how, but we're going to win this thing." And I go, "We either win this thing or we're all going to jail," because that's what and for doing nothing wrong, by the way. It's just that's what they wanted. They wanted my father locked away. They wanted us bankrupt. You had Letitia James, who was trying to take the Trump name off of every building, that redefined skylines that our family had built over the years. They wanted us gone in every way, shape, and form. They wanted our family fractured and broken up. They wanted the MAGA movement and all of us, dead. They wanted to cut the head off of the snake, right? That was their move. And I go, "Pops, we either win this, it's the White House or jail." It was my exact words to him. And thank God we won in such spectacular fashion, winning the popular vote, winning every swing state, winning Miami-Dade by 11 points. That's never been done by a Republican. Every state in the country tacked to the right, in a big way. And honestly, you played a big part of it, bud. I mean that sincerely. Like your listeners are incredible. Your movement is incredible. And by the way, you were hit just as hard as we were. I mean, every conservative that had any voice was deplatformed, debanked. Everything that I talk about in Under Siege, everyone listening to us right now dealt with it in their own way. We were all put under siege. Our voice was stripped. Our First Amendment right was stripped. They tried to take everything from all of us. It wasn't just us. We were just probably the head of the beast.
Well, I respectfully, I don't think anyone can say that they faced any remote what you and your family did. But it is true. We had many conversations here. Everyone, you mentioned Charlie, so I'd love to talk to you about that for a moment. Again, the book is Under Siege. It comes out nationwide October 14th, but it's available for pre-order now. Everyone needs to go get this book. We've all seen that video of Charlie becoming so emotional when Pennsylvania was called for your dad, President Trump, and Charlie actually clarified later on why he got so emotional. It wasn't just the fact that he loved your dad. It wasn't just the fact that he was probably outside of you guys the hardest worker for your dad. It was the relief that I think we all felt when your father rightfully became the president again, and we all were able to have that sigh of relief that we probably aren't going to go to jail now, because we all were sensing the same thing. Even here at the Dear America team, we were having conversations. You heard Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton go on and say that spreaders of mis or disinformation, however they judge that, should be prosecuted and be put in prison. We were all worried about those things as well. Let's talk about Charlie for a moment. I know that Charlie was a good friend of mine. I know that he was very close to you and your family. You and your family have a unique situation. Obviously, I believe the Lord spared President Trump's life right there on the Butler stage. And then again, Secret Service stopped the other would-be assassin right there on the golf course. There's your father with one of the most iconic photos probably of all time right there, the fight photo. Can you just talk to us a little bit about your reaction and now that we've had a couple weeks to kind of digest what happened to Charlie Kirk, again, Under Siege. I don't think your book could come at a better time, unfortunately. Can you talk to us about what your thoughts on the whole Charlie Kirk assassination and martyrdom?
Well, listen, it was like deja vu, right? I had my kids on my lap. I was watching the Butler rally, and I've done a lot of competitive shooting, right? A lot of people who know me personally know that about me. 130-yard shot with a rifle, modern rifle with modern optics is like a chip shot. You know this very well. You know that world very well. And I couldn't believe it. I looked up. I was writing an email at the time, and I heard the shots. I knew exactly what it is. I've sent tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of them. And my jaw hit the ground, and my kids were on my lap. And I remember getting my face right up to the TV, and I'm looking for chest wounds. Obviously, he's wearing a dark suit. I'm trying to see where he was hit, and thank God. And you're right, God's played a massive role in this. I talk a lot about that in the book, about how God has absolutely guided this journey in every way you can possibly imagine. And then all of a sudden, I'm walking to my office, and and somebody very close to me runs up and goes, Charlie just got shot. And honestly, it was like deja vu to Butler again. It was literally like I was right back there. And listen, I sat on the stage 100 times with that guy, with Charlie. He was a friend of mine. I met him when he was 21 years old, who came into Trump Oregon. He was telling me, as a non-political guy, what he was going to do at Turning Point, how he was going to take over the hearts and minds of every student across the country, how he was going to, effectively get conservatives elected to every student body across the nation. And he did it. I mean, he did it better than anyone. And my heart, sank. And you're sitting here saying, they call us fascists every day. They call you fascists. They call me fascist. Yet you've got some punk kid with a sniper rifle dressed in black, from 200 yards who, shoots over a crowd of college students. This guy's no hero, and shoot somebody. And yet they're calling us fascists. We're out there exercising free speech. And the amazing thing about Charlie, he would take the person who disagreed with him the most, and he put that person in the front of the line.
Yeah.
There's a lot of voice boxes. And I love the Conservative Party and everything about it, but you've got a lot of voice boxes in the Conservative Party that will only go on friendly networks, right? And Charlie actually did the exact opposite. Like, he wanted the combat sport of debate and debate with the people who vehemently disagreed with you the most. And the problem is, when the debate is lost, that's when they resort to violence. And that's what they did there. And that's what they did with my father. And they would love to see the same thing happen to me. And they would love to see the same thing happen to Don. I hate to say that because it's dark as hell. And I'm not a dark guy, but they wanted our movement extinct. They put us under siege in every way, shape, and form. And one last thing, not to be long-winded, I called this. I was on Hannity, about 6 weeks before Butler. And I said, listen, they've tried everything. They've tried everything that we just talked about in terms of the siege and how they tried to bankrupt us and destroy us and take us down and weaponize law enforcement and weaponize the courts and the AGs and the DAs. And I said, listen, they've run out of tools. Like, I'm really worried that at some point they try and inflict physical harm. And it's exactly what these people did. And they're sick and they're deranged. But God was watching down over my father that day. There's no question. And we are fighting for God every single day. And we're fighting for the Constitution and the American flag and the Army. I mean, thank God we no longer have Admiral Rachel Levine there, and we've got somebody that actually has a testosterone level of over 210. And what a difference in the world.
Yeah, so I thought it was amazing. I was at the memorial. I know that you guys were as well. I'm curious. Your dad, President Trump, spoke, and it was an amazing speech and honor that he gave to Charlie. But he gave it in front of a pretty big crowd. Your dad pulls big crowds all the time, but it was a big crowd there in Arizona. Do you think that we have a potential? I mean, the argument could be made that the turning point happened back in November, but now with this attack and this ultimately and tragically killing of Charlie, do you think we have an opportunity? Like you said, your book, Under Siege, is available for pre-order right now. Everybody needs to go get it. It's nationwide, October 14th. Do you think we have an ability to turn the tide now? Do you see more unification of conservatives and Christians right now? What are you guys seeing from your end? I'm just curious.
I go back 5 years. You had Colin Kaepernick. He was kneeling, for the national anthem at every NFL game. Go back the same amount of time. You had the women's Olympic soccer team that's turning their back as they raise the flag after they won whatever medal it was. I mean, go back and look at DEI and how it was infecting our every company and every corporation around the country. You couldn't say a damn thing in the lunchroom, otherwise you'd be fired and scolded and embarrassed for life. Every conservative was losing their voices. We didn't have a voice. I mean, this was before Elon bought X, right? I mean, there was no free speech left. There was an attack on God. There was an attack on free speech. Everybody was being silenced. The dials were being turned down by Silicon Valley. The Second Amendment was wholly under attack. Our way of life was under attack. You had Barack Obama over the years who was going out around the world apologizing for American greatness. I mean, we were going to hell. Work from home. People were lying about, the amount of new jobs created. They were cooking the books in terms of numbers. You had voter fraud. You had, the COVID sham that we know so well. And look at where we are today, right? A booming economy, lowest gas prices, lowest inflation prices, hundreds of billions of dollars coming in by way of tariffs, trade balances that are rewriting themselves. churches that are full across the nation, a Second Amendment that's actually going the opposite way for the first time ever as they repeal some of the NFA nonsense that they had for the longest time. I mean, we're winning on every front. Like, and when I say we're winning on every front, and we're able to do that by extinguishing the mainstream media, which we did. They've got the least credibility ever. And as I said before, you've got the strongest voice that you've ever had. And you have independent podcasters like the Joe Rogans and everybody else. And, and obviously Charlie Kirk's before what happened 2 weeks ago, and the Benny Johnsons. And so many of us have a voice that's so much more powerful than it could ever be before. And then we won the popular vote, and then we won all the swing states, and we're winning. I mean, the Democrats can't even counter narrative any of the messages. They don't know what to do. Like, they were wrong. They were fighting for guys my size swimming in women's sports for a 4-year period of time. They lost that argument by 99%. No one wants fentanyl coming into our country. As my father blows up every single fentanyl boat that comes from Venezuela, all of America is cheering because we've all had friends who have died and lost kids to fentanyl, right? I mean,
except the woke left. The woke left is upset that we're taking out drug cartel fentanyl deliverers into our country. They're super mad about it.
The good news is, honestly, they don't make up the majority anymore. They make up a minority. And honestly, one more thing. People are for the first time willing to be vocal. In 2016, I'd had people coming up to me all the time. They'd be whispering in my ears, my whole family's behind you. My whole community's behind you. My church is behind you. Now, honestly, I was on a flight the other day. A flight attendant comes up, and literally, and this is in the middle of a Delta flight, she starts yelling, "I love you. I love your family." I'm sitting there saying, "Oh my God!" Literally, the entire plane now has figured me out, right? Like, we freaking love your family. I'm sorry for being quiet. I'm no longer quiet. Your father's the greatest thing that's ever happened to this nation. People are no longer quiet. And by the way, that map represents it so well right there. It represents the spirit of this nation so damn well. And I'm so proud of him, and I'm proud of the family, and I'm proud of the movement, and I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of all the loud voices. Hey, by the way, there's a lot of extra, there's a lot of ways that people could have made a lot of money, been quiet, probably lived a nice, peaceful life without the headaches, and they chose not to do it. They chose to go out there every single day and fight, despite the siege, and we won because of it. We won because of bravery. We won because of backbone, and that's the best of America.
Oh, I agree completely. That map lets us know that we're not alone, that you and your family, and especially President Trump, spoke for the majority of Americans that were tired of it all. I want to ask you this. So your dad, President Trump, and Secretary of now War, Pete Hegseth, are in the news because they're doing their job. They're restoring peace and order. And again, your book, Under Siege, what an appropriate time for this book to come out. Everyone needs to go pre-order it right now. I'm curious your thoughts. First, it was D.C., had to clean up D.C. D.C. was terrible. Then we went into Chicago. Now we're in Memphis, and the left is losing their minds. Talk to us a little bit about that. I view it as this is what we voted for. I had the privilege of working with Secretary Hegseth for about 6 months in the administration to help get the Pentagon a little bit rolling and in order. And now I'm able to come back here and be a SGE and still help the administration out. I think that your dad, President Trump, and I think that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth are doing exactly what the American people voted for. What are your thoughts about the left's vitriol response to them actually restoring order and stopping crime in these cities?
Well, listen, I love Pete, and I've known him for a very long time, and he became a friend of mine. I was on Fox all the time, as you know, and I adore the guy. When I see him get up there the other day and give a speech in front of all the military commanders, you better get yourselves in shape, like all of you. Yeah. And by the way, if you can't do a pull-up, you shouldn't be here. You just shouldn't. We're supposed to be the most lethal fighting force in the world, and if you can't hit a target with your pistol and from 6 yards away, and you can't do a pull-up, get out of the way, because that's not America, right? And I love to see that testosterone injected, and I love to see what my father did with Washington D.C. I mean, listen, it's a pretty simple recipe. I know D.C. as well as any human being. They arrested 1,700 people. They put them in jail. These are the serial, repeat offenders, right? And all of a sudden, the city went from having rampant crime to having zero crime, instantaneously. You have Democrats who have run places like Chicago for 100 years, and it's gotten worse, and it's gotten worse, and it's gotten worse. Yet in literally 6 days, he can clean up our nation's capital. That has to be done all across the nation.
No, I agree. And you know, I was on Fox last night and somebody said, you know, are you worried that maybe the, you know, deploying the military or things like that is overstepping boundaries? And I said, you know, actually, I completely disagree. I think that if these leftist cities, these leftist mayors, these leftist governors are not going to protect the citizens of the United States, the American people, which your dad, the president, that is his job, is to take care of the American people. And if he needs to bring in the National Guard to do the job, then I'm all for it. And I'm so thankful for President Trump. I'm so thankful for you and your family. I know your time is valuable. Eric, I want to give you one more thing. Under Siege is the book. What's your hope that people take away from this book? What's your final words for the Dear America family?
You know, it's actually really an inspirational story, and I think it's why it's gone to #1 on Amazon, and you know, is absolutely killing it out there. But it's, listen, if you fight for something that you believe in, you can absolutely prevail every single time. And I think there's, you know, for every entrepreneur, for every small business owner out there, I think there's a great message for every person who loves the flag, for everybody who feels deflated, for every person who feels like the walls are closing in on them. You know, believe me, the walls were closing in on us in ways that you can't even possibly imagine. And I think when you read it, you'll say, oh my God, like, you know, if they were able to fight through that nonsense against those odds, you know, so can I. And so it's a great business book. It's a great kind of inspirational story. It's a great reality about the state of our country over the last, you know, certainly 10-year period of time, and you know, and how all of us together won. And again, send it to your liberal friend who thinks that the government's been being weaponized, quote unquote, weaponized against James Comey, who clearly lied, right? I mean, at least to me, you know, it very apparently lied. You know, send it to them. I think it'll open their eyes up to what we faced over the last decade.
I love it. Again, the book is Under Siege. Eric, we love you guys here. We love your family here. My co-host Todd wants to say something to you really quick, so I'm going to let him come in really fast and say something to you. Todd, go.
All right, just really quick, Eric. Coming from somebody, me, that you know has served this country, that loves this country with all his heart, I just got to say, man, you, your father, and your family, y'all have a love for this country that even I can't really understand. The fact that your family could go off and live happily ever after. You don't need this drama. Your family doesn't need these problems, but you're still here. You're fighting for this country. You're fighting for the American people. So you guys will have my utmost respect until the day I die. And from the American people and the Hot Seat Mafia and the Dear America family, thank you, your father, and your whole family.
Well, listen, I love you to death based on that hat that you're wearing. And I had a little old grandmother. She's still alive. She's 99 years old. She always said, how many steaks can you eat, right? At the end of the day, you know, go fight for what you believe in. Go do what's right. You know, stand up for principles, stand up for values, stand up for God, stand up for the American flag. We live in the greatest country on earth. It's not even close, guys. It's not even freaking close. We live in the greatest country on earth. And we can't let these freaking imbeciles, you know, take it over vis-a-vis their corruption, their nonsense, and drive it to hell. So, you know, if we're the people called on by God to go in and do the job, and you know, get a lot of arrows in our chests, you know, so be it. We did a good job. He did an amazing job, and you guys did an amazing job. We did this whole thing together. Everyone listening, we did this thing together, and it might be the greatest mission of our lives.
I agree. Eric, we love you. We love your family. Dear America is a home for you. Please come back as often as you're able. We would love to have you more regularly here. I'm going to get with your team. We're going to send you some Never Woke gear. I'd love for you guys to have that.
You don't need to worry about me going woke, my friend, that much I can tell you.
I know.
Please don't lose sleep over that one.
No way. Under Siege is the book. Eric Trump, ladies and gentlemen, go right now. Every single one of you, 20,000 plus watching live right this second. And for the hundreds of thousands that are going to watch after this, go get the book. Eric, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We love and appreciate your family, and we've always got your back.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
All right. Wow.